I'm telling you, if you're in a position to leave the UK, I'd leave right now. There's so much crime, you don't even feel safe here. Everything is just so expensive. There's so much racism. Even if you're born here, people don't even accept you. And it's so depressing here. It's like you're a robot. Everything is the same every single day. And no one wants to talk to you. Even if you go to work and take public transport, I promise you people look so miserable and depressed. People are just surviving here with everything becoming so expensive. You can barely afford to pay your bills. And is this the life you really want to live? That's what you've got to ask yourself. So if you're in a position to leave the UK, I am telling you that is probably the best thing that you can do. No one supports you here. Everyone's so divided. Everyone believes the news. It's not going to get any better. In fact, it's going to get worse. If you're in a position to leave, just leave. Leave the UK.
Millions of British are beginning to leave the UK because of new harsh immigration rules imposed by the Labour government. We've had raids and arrests of foreign workers, some ILR stripped off and asked to leave the UK. Others hit with very high taxes and high salaries, leading to a very high cost of living where many can no longer afford.
Just days ago, I was appointed Home Secretary with one clear priority: tackling migration. The government has already laid the foundations. We have lifted removals to 35,000 people, including tougher sanctions on countries who refuse to take back their own citizens who are living here.
Hence, many workers are now concluding that they want to leave the country before it gets even worse, as they can't bring families, they pay high taxes, earn very little, and life is like leaving from hand to mouth.
Oh, Colin.
I am disgusted, Anthony, absolutely disgusted. Keir Starmer is driving all the good people out of this country because of his communist policies.
Yeah.
Good people, like that millionaire plumber who looks like someone's ordered Rod Stewart off Wish. If millionaires can't afford to live in this country anymore, then what hope have the rest of us?
It's sad, isn't it, Colin? It's sad that they've got to leave because they're being asked to pay a bit more tax. It's really sad for them.
It's the rich elites who fund our NHS with the taxes they don't pay fully because they keep profits offshore, Anthony. And some of these rich people are landlords, forced into poverty by Labour's Corbynesque policy of saying that perhaps working people should be able to afford their own house.
Yes.
And to make matters worse, we won't even subsidise their children's private education. It's disgusting.
Well, somebody think of the...
In addition, the government just made a big publication as they've revoked more licenses of companies sponsoring foreign workers to come to the UK. So many skilled workers who are working in some of these companies now have no other choice than to leave the UK immediately.
Am I not the only one that thinks it's way too expensive to live in the UK? It's getting ridiculous now that I'm thinking of moving. I've actually totted up how much it costs for me to survive. Family, I've got to earn £2,776 a month. That's mental, bruv. That is ridiculous.
We will reveal the victim's penalty, the cruel double punishment inflicted on the very workers this system was meant to protect. Before we pull back the curtain on this political theatre, you need to sound the alarm. Give this video a thumbs up. It is a critical signal that this story is not what it seems, and the truth must get out. Share it with anyone who believes in fairness, anyone who works for a sponsoring employer, and anyone who cares about the reality of immigration beyond the headlines. To my subscribers, thank you for being the intelligence network that refuses to accept the official story. First, let's examine the official narrative, the story the government wants you to believe. The numbers are indeed dramatic. In the year leading up to June 2025, a staggering 1,948 sponsor licenses were revoked. This is more than double the 937 cancelled in the previous year. The Migration Minister, Mike Tapp, has been front and centre on programmes like BBC Breakfast, declaring this a sign of real action. He claims the government is catching employers who are scamming the system, underpaying and exploiting workers, and using the visa system as a backdoor for illegal immigration. The Home Office boasts that this is the result of better data and intelligence sharing, moving beyond random spot checks to a more targeted, intelligence-led approach. The sectors in the crosshairs are some of the most vital to our daily lives: adult social care, hospitality, retail, and construction. The message is simple and powerful. The government is the sheriff, cleaning up a lawless town and protecting British workers. But this is where the official story ends, and the brutal, unseen reality begins. Let's talk about what the government deliberately fails to mention. What happens to the migrant worker, the person who was being exploited, the moment their employer's license is cancelled. This is the victim's penalty. Let's create a person. Let's call her Priya. Priya is a trained care assistant from a small village thousands of miles away. She saw an advert for a job in the UK. To get it, she and her family sold a small plot of land and took out a loan to pay a recruitment agent thousands of pounds. She arrived in the UK full of hope, believing she was coming to work for the NHS or a reputable company. Instead, she found herself in a cramped house with 10 other people, her pay illegally docked for rent and fees. Her employer held her passport and told her that if she complained, she would be sent home in disgrace. She was a victim of modern slavery, trapped and terrified. Then, the Home Office swoops in. They raid the company, find the evidence of exploitation, and revoke the license. For a fleeting moment, Priya feels a sense of relief. She has been rescued. But this is a false dawn. Days later, a letter arrives. It is not an offer of support or a victim's compensation package. It is a notice of visa curtailment. The letter informs her that because her sponsor no longer has a license, her right to remain in the UK has been cut short. She has just 60 days to find an entirely new sponsoring employer, a near impossible task for someone who is traumatized, isolated, and likely penniless. If she fails, she will be classified as an overstayer, a criminal in the eyes of the state. The system that was supposed to protect her from exploitation has in fact become the final instrument of her ruin. She is a victim of a crime, and her punishment is deportation. This is the story the government does not tell. They celebrate the 1948 revoked licenses but remain silent on the tens of thousands of Priyas who are the hidden casualties punished twice over. This cynical strategy becomes even clearer when you look at the political crossfire. The government is under immense pressure. The opposition Conservative Party, through its Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philplay, dismisses this crackdown as merely tinkering around the edges, a performative act while immigration remains sky high. He claims the government is failing to train British workers, allowing sectors to become hooked on imported labour. On the other side, think tanks like Migration Watch UK point out that revoking nearly 2,000 licences is a drop in the ocean when almost 50,000 organisations can issue them. Caught in this political pincer movement, the government needs a win. They need a headline that makes them look tough, decisive, and in control of the borders. This crackdown is the perfect political weapon. It is an act of spectacular misdirection. By focusing on rogue employers, the migration minister can brilliantly conflate legal sponsored migration with illegal immigration. He explicitly links this issue to visa overstayers and the asylum system, blurring the lines in the public's mind. It allows the government to create the impression that they are tackling the small boats crisis by cracking down on a care home in Birmingham. It is a classic political sleight of hand. Look at the shiny object of the license crackdown and don't look at the intractable, complex problems we are failing to solve elsewhere. They are sacrificing the lives of vulnerable, exploited workers for a good headline. The most perverse part of this logic is that their policy to tackle overstayers actively creates a new class of them from the victims of exploitation. The damage doesn't stop with the workers. The collateral damage of this policy is vast. To every genuinely criminal employer, there are legitimate businesses now living in a state of terror. A small administrative error, a missed email, a misunderstanding of the complex and ever-changing rules could be enough to trigger a suspension and the potential ruin of their company. This chilling effect discourages good employers from using the sponsorship system at all, exacerbating staff shortages. And what about the communities? When a care home's license is revoked, it's not just the exploitative owner who is affected. The elderly residents face the trauma of being moved, their continuity of care shattered. The burden shifts to the already overstretched NHS, as hospital beds are blocked by patients who cannot be discharged. The new Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, is signalling that this is just the beginning. Her tough rhetoric about suspending visas from entire countries that do not cooperate with removal agreements shows a clear direction of travel. The individual migrant is being dehumanized, turned into a bargaining chip in a geopolitical game. Their rights, their safety, and their future are secondary to the political objective of looking tough. So when you see the government celebrating these figures, you must ask the question they do not want you to ask. what happened to the workers. The doubling of revoked licenses is not a story of justice. It is a story of a government so desperate for a political victory that it is willing to inflict a double punishment on the most vulnerable. They are punishing the victims of exploitation with unemployment and deportation. They are celebrating a statistic that is built on a foundation of human misery and institutional hypocrisy. They call it enforcement. But for the worker caught in the middle, who loses everything for a crime that was committed against them, it is just another, more final form of exploitation. Thank you for watching. Do not let this dissection stand. Share this video. Demand that your political representatives answer for the human cost of this policy. The measure of a just system is not how it punishes, but how it protects. And right now, our system is failing its most fundamental test. System is failing its most fundamental test.